concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What?
Are you bleaching your skin, and is your skin lighter because you don't like? This is the situation.
Yes.
I have a skin disorder that destroys the pigmentation of the skin. It's something that I cannot help.
For more than 3 decades, Oprah Winfrey has been known as the Queen of American television. She became a gateway of power where the nation stepped forward to speak about race justice and morality. From the familiar armchair on the Oprah Winfrey Show, stories were told not merely to entertain, but to heal, to awaken, and to shape the conscience of a nation. But that very space, long considered the safest of all, became a stage for raw, exposed, and chilling views on race. Words spoken without warning, without protection, by some of the most famous, powerful, and revered figures in the world. Unlike many talk shows that chose avoidance, Oprah let the cameras keep rolling. And because of that, certain episodes moved far beyond entertainment television. They became unsettling historical records moments when audiences were forced for the first time to confront the truth behind so-called icons. Today, we reopen those moments. The 7 most controversial guests ever to speak about race on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Are you ready, Meghan Markle? The interview that shook the British royal family. On Sunday night, March 7, 2021, America tuned in to CBS for a special episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show. The interview was filmed in Montecito, California, in the backyard garden of the home where Meghan Markle and Prince Harry had withdrawn from royal life. For nearly the first hour, Meghan spoke about life inside the monarchy. The rules, the pressure, the silence. Everything was tense, but still within what could be endured. But the most disturbing revelation came when Meghan disclosed that while she was pregnant within the dark corridors and closed rooms of Buckingham Palace, members of the royal family had gathered to discuss one thing: the skin tone of the child she was about to give birth to. Meghan shared, "There were concerns and conversations about how dark the baby's skin might be when he was born." In that moment, time seemed to freeze. Oprah Winfrey, a woman who has witnessed countless human tragedies, physically leaned forward, her eyes wide with shock. She did not calmly ask a question. She exclaimed in disbelief, "What, there were conversations about how dark your baby's skin would be? What are you talking about?" Meghan simply nodded. A single nod that sent shockwaves through the Windsor dynasty. It was not just an accusation of racial division. It was an indictment of cruelty rooted in bloodline. A fear that Meghan's black heritage would somehow stain the perceived purity of one of the world's oldest white royal lineages. The cruelty of the firm. The tension reached its peak when Meghan confessed that she had once felt like she could not go on. She spoke of begging palace officials to let her receive professional care because she felt her inner world was falling apart. Meghan said, "I went to them and said, 'I need help. I had never felt like this before. And they told me, no, that would not be good for the image of the family.'" Imagine that level of coldness. A pregnant woman in despair, while the so-called nobles were concerned only with whether their public image might suffer in the headlines. Meghan described herself as a decorative object, stripped of basic human dignity. When Harry joined the conversation, the tone shifted from pain to fury. Prince Harry did not defend his family. He used words like trapped and darkness. He revealed that his father, King Charles III, had cut off communication and financial support. Oprah pressed further. "Why did you leave?" Harry answered with bitter clarity, "Because of the lack of understanding. I was afraid history would repeat itself," referring to Princess Diana. Harry confirmed that there had indeed been a conversation about his son's skin color, but he stated that he would take the name of the person responsible to the grave. That silence was more terrifying than any statement because it forced the world to look at every senior royal with suspicion. Was it William? Was it Charles? Or someone even more powerful? After the interview, British media erupted. Piers Morgan, long known for his vicious attacks, shouted on television that Meghan was lying only to storm off the set in humiliation when challenged by his colleagues. Buckingham Palace remained silent for 48 hours. A deadly silence. When the statement "Recollections may vary" was finally released, it sounded less like a defense and more like a weak admission in the face of an unbearable truth. In America, a wave of support for Meghan surged. In Britain, society split in two. One side saw Meghan as a destroyer of tradition. The other dared for the first time to ask whether the royal family truly stood above race, as they had always claimed. The interview was no longer a personal scandal. It became a historical document, the moment when the British royal family was forced to confront an accusation they could not silence with ceremony or tradition. If Meghan Markle's interview left the world stunned by what was said behind the walls of power, then the next story is even more painful. A single human being placed under the world's microscope for decades. Michael Jackson, 1993, when skin color faded and public anger exploded. In 1993, the entire world became obsessed with one burning question. Why did Michael Jackson go from being a black man to appearing white? From a black child with an afro, a symbol of Motown and a source of pride for the black community, Michael Jackson slowly began appearing in public with lighter and lighter skin, a changing face, and an appearance people barely recognized. Rumors spread. They said he hated his own bloodline, that he altered his skin, that he wanted to erase his ancestors. After 14 years of silence, Michael made a decision. He invited Oprah into his sacred world Neverland to finally speak once and for all. On the night of February 10, 1993, the world seemed to stop. More than 90 million people were glued to their screens to watch a live broadcast of the Oprah Winfrey Show from the Neverland Ranch estate. It was the first time in 14 years that Michael Jackson had agreed to open his heart to the media. Without giving him time to brace himself, Oprah asked the question that froze the room. She did not soften it. She went straight to the point. There is a tremendous amount of speculation about your skin color. Obviously, it is much different than when you were a child. What happened? For the first time, Michael answered directly. I have a skin disorder that destroys the pigmentation of the skin. It's called vitiligo. Oprah Winfrey did not stop there. She pressed further to make sure the audience did not misunderstand. So when people think you're bleaching your skin, Michael shook his head. That is not true. I've never bleached my skin. I am proud of my race. I am proud of who I am. This was the pivotal moment, because the most serious accusation against Michael Jackson at the time was not about appearance. It was the charge of betraying his identity. Michael's explanation of vitiligo sounded like a cry for help in an ocean of hostility. He explained that he had to use makeup to even out his skin tone because of the uneven patches across his body. But the real drama was this. The public did not believe him. They looked at his surgically altered nose, his straightened hair, and skin stripped of visible pigment, and concluded that Michael was trying to shed his race in order to become a perfected white figure. Oprah continued to dig deeper into the wounds of his childhood. She asked about how his father, Joe Jackson, had mocked him for a nose that was too big and skin that was too dark. The connection between emotional trauma and physical transformation painted a deeply complex psychological portrait. Viewers saw the world's biggest superstar trembling as he explained his own body like a child being blamed for something he could not control. The interview ended with record-breaking viewership, but it also opened a new chapter in racial controversy. Some members of the black community felt betrayed, believing Michael had used illness as a shield to deny his roots. Others saw it as an act of profound courage, the testimony of a man judged relentlessly for things people refused to understand. This moment remains compelling because it was never just about one individual. It exposed America's obsession with skin color. It showed that even if you are the richest, the most talented skin color remains a shadow that cannot be escaped. Any change in appearance is instantly treated as a political act or a cultural betrayal. Michael Jackson went on television hoping to find understanding. Instead, he was subjected to even harsher dissection. Only after his death did the autopsy officially confirm that he suffered from severe vitiligo, fully validating that what he told Oprah in 1993 was 100% true. This episode remains a painful reminder of how cruel the world can be when it comes to race. If Michael Jackson's interview was a fight for identity, then Oprah Winfrey's next confrontation would become something far more dangerous. A direct collision inside the very lair of hatred itself. This was no longer just television. It was a face-to-face clash between light and the darkest resentment in America. Johnny Lee Clary, the Ku Klux Klan leader, unmasked on television. February 1987. Oprah Winfrey brought her entire production crew to Forsyth County, a place known as a county with no black people. For more than 75 years, Forsyth had almost no residents of color. Not by accident, but through threats, violence, and unwritten rules. Black people had been driven out, warned never to return. And Oprah, a black woman on her way to becoming a national television figure, chose to walk straight into that place. No dramatic security, no friendly audience, just a small crew, and an atmosphere thick with hatred. Many members of the team later admitted they were genuinely afraid. Who was Johnny Lee Clary? The man Oprah was about to confront was not some random extremist. He was Johnny Lee Clary, who at the time held the title of Grand Imperial Wizard, one of the most powerful positions within the Ku Klux Klan. The KKK is the most notorious white supremacist organization in American history, founded after the U.S. Civil War, with the core mission of declaring white people the superior race. They targeted Black Americans, Jewish people, immigrants, and Catholics. Their white robes and hoods were not symbolic costumes. They were tools of intimidation designed to terrorize and erase the identity of their victims. Johnny Lee Clary believed white people were chosen by God, and that racial coexistence was against creation itself. These were not emotional outbursts. This was ideology. The filming did not take place in a studio. Oprah stood inside a local hall surrounded entirely by white faces. Johnny Lee Clary showed no restraint. He looked Oprah directly in the eye and made statements that sent chills through television audiences. He twisted scripture to justify racial separation. We don't hate anyone. We simply love our own race. God separated the continents, separated the colors. Mixing bloodlines is a crime against creation. Oprah, with unshakable composure, did not step back. She asked a question that cut straight through the logic of hate. You say you don't hate me, but if I wanted to move next door to you, what would you do? Clary answered without hesitation. I would do everything I could to make you leave. You don't belong there. Your presence would be an insult to our community. The atmosphere exploded as other Klan members began shouting vicious insults. A white man in the audience stood up and shouted at Oprah, "You are a tool of evil, sent to poison the minds of white people." The power of the moment lay in Oprah's response. She did not answer aggression with aggression. She used silence control and razor-sharp questioning to expose the emptiness beneath their certainty. She showed the world that behind the white hoods and grand declarations was a fragile fear of a changing world. After this episode, Oprah experienced a turning point. She realized that inviting people like Clary onto her show only gave them a platform to spread poison. She later said, "I realized I was being used. From that moment on, I would never give hatred a microphone again." But what makes Johnny Lee Clary's story more gripping than any Hollywood script is what came next. Years after the interview, Clary began to realize that the leaders of the KKK were not superior at all. He witnessed corruption, secret affairs, and leaders stealing from the organization to fund their own excesses. That was when he encountered the greatest opponent of his life, Pastor Wade Watts. Wade Watts was the head of the NAACP in Oklahoma. For years, Clary harassed him, threatened him, and even attempted to burn down his home. Watts responded calmly, "There is nothing you can do to stop me from loving you, Johnny. I will pray for you. And every time you do harm to me, I will respond with kindness." Clary was shaken. He had never encountered resistance built entirely on love. In 1989, after discovering that his wife herself, a KKK member, had been unfaithful with another leader, Clary collapsed emotionally. He left the organization, but the Klan did not forgive betrayal. They hunted him and threatened his life. In a moment of total despair, Clary picked up a gun. Then Pastor Watts's words echoed in his mind. He threw the gun away, fell to the floor, and broke down in tears. Clary eventually left the KKK completely. In 1990, Johnny Lee Clary returned to the Oprah Winfrey Show. But this time, there was no polished suit or arrogant posture. He appeared quietly dressed, simply walking slowly, his eyes filled with remorse. Oprah looked at him with visible doubt. "How can I trust someone who once wanted me driven out of Georgia?" This time, there were no shouts, no hostile stares, only remorse. Johnny Lee Clary spent the rest of his life undoing the damage he once caused. He traveled the world warning people about the dangers of hate groups. He became a pastor and a close friend of the Watts family until his death in 2014. The 1987 confrontation between Oprah and Johnny Lee Clary entered American television history as one of its most powerful moments. Hatred can be loud and violent, but it always trembles in the face of truth and forgiveness. From a leader of a hate movement, Clary ended his life as a friend of the Black community. And Oprah, after that fateful afternoon in Georgia, became what many would later call the conscience of America. If Johnny Lee Clary was given time to step back, reflect and undo the damage of an entire belief system, then the next name on this list would not be given that chance. Michael Richards, a legend, hits the self-destruct button, and a desperate apology. Michael Richards was once a comedy legend, loved by millions for his role as Cosmo Kramer on the iconic television series Seinfeld. But in less than 120 seconds on the stage of a comedy club, Richards personally buried his celebrated career beneath the weight of racial hostility. The shocking incident took place on a night in November 2006 at the Laugh Factory in West Hollywood. While Richards was performing, a group of Black audience members seated in the upper rows shouted a few taunts. Instead of responding with the sharp wit of a seasoned comedian, Richards suddenly transformed into someone filled with rage. He screamed at them, unleashing some of the most offensive language a Black person could hear. "Shut up!" Richards shouted repeatedly, using a racial slur with uncontrollable fury. The room shifted instantly from laughter to dead silence, then to loud boos and outrage. A legend collapsed right on the stage where he once belonged. A secretly recorded video of the incident was uploaded online, and overnight Michael Richards went from a national treasure to public enemy number one. Just days later, as the footage spread across headlines everywhere, Michael Richards appeared via satellite on the Oprah Winfrey Show in a final attempt to salvage his reputation. But instead of a sincere apology that might have softened public anger, viewers witnessed one of the most painfully uncomfortable moments in television history. Richards appeared on the large screen looking hollow, with dark circles under his eyes like someone emerging from a long nightmare. He was not in the studio, and the physical distance created by the satellite connection only intensified the sense of isolation and rejection. Oprah Winfrey showed no mercy. Looking directly into the camera on behalf of millions of outraged viewers, she asked questions that cut deep into Richards' psyche. Why did you choose those words? Why use language rooted in oppression to express your anger? Richards trembled, his voice catching in his throat. He tried to explain himself in broken phrases. "I didn't know what I was doing. I was triggered. I was devastated to hear those words come out of my own mouth. I am not a racist." It was a moment of madness, an eruption of something dark inside me. The tragedy was that Richards seemed to be performing an apology and failing badly. He spoke vaguely about dark energy within himself, turning what should have been an act of accountability into something distant and hollow for the people he had hurt. The most haunting moment of the episode was the reaction of Oprah's studio audience. When Richards awkwardly attempted to use a touch of misplaced humor to relieve the tension, not a single laugh followed. The silence fell like a stone wall collapsing on him. Even Jerry Seinfeld, his close friend who appeared in his defense, could not change the outcome. Viewers watched a top-tier star sink deeper into the mud of his own mistake, clinging to Oprah's forgiveness like a life raft already full of holes. After that interview, Michael Richards' career was effectively over. The public rejected the explanation of a momentary lapse. Oprah had given him a chance to speak, but Richards' confusion and unfocused reasoning proved one thing. When dignity is wounded by racial hostility, no star is big enough to cover it up. Richards retreated from public life, leaving behind a costly lesson. One reckless outburst can burn down 30 years of success in less than 2 minutes. If Johnny Lee Clary represented redemption, then Michael Richards became the clearest warning of all about the destructive power of prejudice. And the next figure would become the most expensive lesson of cancel culture in America once the red line of race is crossed. Paula Deen, when the queen of Southern cooking lost everything over one admission. Before 2013, Paula Deen was considered a national treasure of American food culture. With her elegant silver hair, warm smile, and sweet Southern drawl, She built an empire of cookware cookbooks and some of the most successful cooking shows on television. But all of it collapsed into dust after a court deposition that stretched over 100 pages. Everything began with a lawsuit filed by Lisa Jackson, a former manager at one of Paula's restaurants. During her sworn deposition, Paula Deen was questioned about statements she had made in the past. Instead of carefully denying them, she offered admissions so casual they shocked the public. The most disturbing detail came when Paula described what she once imagined as the perfect wedding for her brother. She envisioned a setting inspired by Gone with the Wind, where black men dressed in white suits and gloves would stand in service to white guests. "I wanted an old-style Southern wedding with black servers standing there professionally. It would have been beautiful and elegant," she said. To the modern world, this was not elegance. It was the romanticizing of slavery, an open wound in American history that never truly healed. When the lawyer asked, "Have you ever used a highly offensive racial slur?" Paula answered without hesitation, "Of course." She explained that she had used it while recounting a traumatic experience involving a robbery decades earlier. But what enraged the public was her attitude. She treated the use of such language as something normal in the South. Social media exploded instantly. The hashtag #ThatYourPaulaDeenRecipes was flooded with mockery and racial backlash. In a final attempt to save her reputation, Paula Deen sat down for a direct conversation with Oprah Winfrey. It became a tense confrontation between a white woman trying to prove she was not cruel and a powerful black woman determined to expose a deep lack of awareness. The tear-soaked interview on Oprah's show. Oprah sat with her arms crossed, eyes cutting straight through the emotion, and asked a direct question. "Do you understand why those words are so deeply painful?" Paula Deen, her face swollen from crying, answered in desperation, "Oprah, I'm only human. I made mistakes. Let anyone who has never made a mistake throw the first stone. I am not an enemy of people of color. I love everyone." The tension lay here. Paula repeatedly leaned on the word love, but viewers saw a woman clinging to the past. Oprah pointed out that the issue was not whether Paula was personally evil, but that she was completely blind to the pain her ancestors inflicted on black communities, pain reflected in the plantation imagery she admired. Never had cancel culture moved so efficiently. Within 7 days of the interview being dissected, the Food Network cut ties with Paula Deen after 11 years. Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Sears removed every product bearing her image from their shelves. Smithfield Foods terminated a multi-million-dollar endorsement deal. Paula Deen went from a self-made billionaire to a figure effectively shut out of mainstream television. She lost her empire not because her cooking failed, but because she revealed something far deeper. Beneath the kindly exterior lived a mindset shaped by racial bias that had never been confronted. Sharing the same fate as Paula Deen, the next figure represents the most brutal proof of all. An A-list superstar can lose everything in a matter of hours over a single social media post. This would become the fastest public downfall in the history of American television. Roseanne Barr. When America's mom became an outcast over a single tweet. In 2018, Roseanne Barr was standing at a peak most entertainers could only dream of. Her legendary sitcom Roseanne had just been revived, after decades off the air, and returned with record-breaking ratings, becoming ABC's biggest cash cow. But then, on one fateful morning in May, she pressed the self-destruct button herself. The dehumanizing comparison. In a moment of excitement on Twitter, Roseanne Barr wrote about Valerie Jarrett, a former senior advisor to President Obama, a woman of color. She wrote that if the Muslim Brotherhood and the movie Planet of the Apes had a child, it would be Valerie Jarrett. Comparing people of color to apes is among the most offensive and sensitive expressions in the United States. It touches one of the deepest wounds of slavery, where black people were treated as less than human. Within minutes, social media erupted in fury. A collapse within 3 hours. Normally, celebrities are given time to apologize or explain themselves. But in Roseanne's case, ABC made a decisive and unprecedented move. Despite Roseanne being the network's highest-earning show, ABC announced its immediate cancellation. The president of ABC stated Roseanne's comments are abhorrent, repugnant, and inconsistent with our values. Overnight, hundreds of cast and crew members lost their jobs because of one tweet from the lead star. After the scandal, Roseanne appeared in discussions with Oprah Winfrey to explain herself. Audiences expected deep remorse, but what followed was a moment of highly charged controversy. The confrontation with Oprah. An apology out of sync, Roseanne sat across from Oprah with a stunned expression, blaming her actions on having taken Ambien, a sleep medication, claiming she was not fully aware. "I did something stupid. I'm not a racist. I'm a comedian who took things too far. I sincerely apologize for making people misunderstand me." But Oprah, with her sharp instinct, asked questions that left Roseanne struggling. "Do you understand how much harm those words cause to a woman of color?" The tension peaked when Roseanne insisted she did not know Valerie Jarrett was black, an explanation that Oprah and the public found impossible to accept. This became the most expensive lesson of the digital age. No court, no lawsuit. You can be erased from a multi-billion-dollar industry with a single press of the Enter key. A television network willing to walk away from hundreds of millions of dollars to uphold principles against racial hostility set a new standard in Hollywood. Roseanne Barr never returned to her former glory. The show continued without her. Her character was written out as having died, and the series was renamed The Conners. She became a figure effectively isolated from mainstream media. If the previous names on this list all fell because of words they actually spoke, then the story of the next figure is one of the strangest cases in television history. This was not a punishment, but a historic exoneration of a man condemned for over a decade because of a statement that never existed. Tommy Hilfiger. Decoding a decade-long false verdict. Imagine being a world-famous designer, yet everywhere you go, people look at you with contempt for a sentence you never said. That was the nightmare Tommy Hilfiger lived through. In the mid-1990s, a devastating rumor began spreading like a virus long before social media existed. People whispered that Tommy Hilfiger had appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show and declared, "If I had known black people or Asian people would wear my clothes, I wouldn't have made them so nice. I wish they wouldn't buy my clothing." The rumor became so dramatic that it claimed Oprah angrily threw Tommy out of the studio. The consequences were brutal. The hip-hop community and people of color who had helped make Tommy Hilfiger a global phenomenon turned their backs on the brand. Sales dropped. His reputation was completely destroyed. The historic confrontation of 2007 Truth revealed, for 10 years Tommy suffered in silence. Finally, in 2007, Oprah Winfrey did something unprecedented. She invited Tommy on her show to confront the rumor directly and end the urban legend once and for all. Oprah opened the interview with an unusually serious tone, looking straight into the camera as she declared, "I need to make this clear once and for all. There is a rumor that Tommy Hilfiger appeared on my show and that I threw him out. The truth is, before today, I had never met this man in person." The audience fell silent in shock. A lie that had lived for 10 years was erased in 10 seconds. Tommy Hilfiger sat across from Oprah, his face filled with emotion. He shared how he had lived for years in shame and fear. "It was like a ghost following me. Everywhere I went, people looked at me like I was a racist. It broke my heart because my family, my friends, and most of the models I work with are people of color. I love their culture. But that lie turned me into a monster." Oprah asked, "Why do you think people believed it?" Tommy answered bitterly, "Because it was a compelling story. People prefer to believe in someone's downfall rather than the truth." This was the only time audiences saw Oprah use her power not to bring someone down, but to protect a victim of malicious rumor. It proved that a lie repeated often enough becomes truth in the public mind. Without Oprah, the Tommy Hilfiger brand might have disappeared entirely from fashion spaces, embraced by minority communities. After the interview, trust from Black and Asian consumers slowly returned. Tommy Hilfiger not only reclaimed his name, but became a symbol of racial diversity in global fashion. The Oprah Winfrey Show was never just a talk show. It was the place where America was forced to look into the mirror, not a polished reflection, but one filled with contradiction, fear, and unfinished truths. Which of these guests do you think was the most controversial? Leave a comment below. If you enjoy stories behind the spotlight, legends revisited with honesty, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episodes.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on the screen.